I joined the Navy right out of high school. When I graduated from high school when I was 16 years old, and I had to wait. I graduated in May of 1938, and I'd gone down to enlist in the Navy, but they wouldn't take me till I was 17. So after my 17th birthday, which was August, I was put on a waiting list then. And you had to take an entrance exam, believe it or not, to get in the Navy. You had to take an intelligence test to get in the Navy in those days. You just couldn't walk down if you were warm. The Army and the Marines were a little different. They didn't have that thing, but because the Navy is so technical, the ships are so technical, as you can see from that, you had to be just a cut above stupidity. So I was called in the Navy and went through boot camp, was signed to the ship, the Blue. And the reason I got assigned to that ship is because my oldest brother had put the ship in commission. In those days you could request duty with your brother, which I did. I caught the ship in St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands in 1939, early in 39. We went to Cuba and Haiti, and then they ended up in Jacksonville, Florida. And then because of the Japanese were getting rambunctious in the West Coast, they sent us back to our home port, which was in San Diego. We operated out of San Diego, doing various and sundry things until 1940, when they decided they'd move part of the Pacific Fleet to Hawaii to be closer to Japan. So early in 1940, we were transferred from San Diego to Pearl Harbor, which, as all of you know, was not a state at that time. It was a territory, American protectorate. We stayed in Honolulu from then on. Honolulu is the city. Pearl Harbor is just outside of Honolulu. I was assigned to the destroyer, the USS WWII, DD-387. DD stands for Destruction Destroyer, and 387, we had so many up, we had numbers on the side up to tell them apart. I ran the main engines on the ship. When I was, how old was I? I think when I was 19 years old, I was a qualified engineer to operate a 50,000 horsepower steam engines. We had two. Our ship was 321 feet long. It was 29 feet wide. Had a crew of about 125. We carried 16 21-inch torpedoes. We had 4 5-inch guns, 4 50 caliber machine guns, 2 600-pound depth charge racks on the stern, 3 K guns on each side that shot 300-pound depth charge on each side. The destroyer is primarily an anti-submarine ship. High speed, our top speed was 37.5 knots. And if you're familiar how fast you can go in the water, that's moving it pretty good. We weighed 1,500 tons. We got back in the harbor about 10:30 on Friday night, December the 5th. And normally you couldn't enter the harbor after dark because there was a submarine net across the entrance of the harbor. But because we were anti-submarine equipped, you had to be pretty stupid to try to sneak in the harbor under a ship that was looking for you. So they didn't open the gate, they cracked it a little bit, and we came through because we were low on fuel. And because of that, it came to our advantage on December the 7th because we tied up their buoy by ourselves. Normally destroyers tie up 4 in a bunch by a tender, but for this reason we were by ourselves. Saturday morning they came alongside and gave us new fuel and food because we'd been at sea for 3 weeks and we were running low on fuel. We had refueled at sea. That's one thing the Navy did well. We would go alongside of a bigger ship. We'd go like this and keep a constant speed. They'd drop a hose over one side the other, and we could refuel from the big ship, carried enough fuel because at our high speed running with an aircraft carrier, we could burn up all the fuel we had in about 5 days. We could burn 2,000 gallons an hour, so you talk about your mileage. Sunday morning, bright and early. The old boats were made on the ship. We didn't have a loudspeaker system on the ship. He passed the word, away the fire and rescue party. General alarm sounded, and that meant another ship was in the harbor, was on fire, and we took our small boats and put in the water, put a portable pump in it. We'd go to the aid and rescue of other ships. Well, I didn't have a fire and rescue station, so I sort of turned back over my bunk. And he came back about 30 seconds later and says, Big A, that means cancel that order, man your battle station. So general alarm sounding, and on the destroyer we had about a minute and a half. You could be sound asleep. You're supposed to be at your battle station within a minute and a half from sound asleep. Can you handle that today? Well, anyhow, we got there, and my battle station was damage control, even though I was an engineer. But each guy had a battle station. He was either on a gun or on the engines. I was in a damage control. So as a result of that, after I finished you shut certain doors, open certain valves, and shut certain valves after you set the condition that you were in. I went to the top side, so I got to see the whole panorama that happened. A lot of people didn't get to see it because normally I'd be below deck. I could see the Japanese parade fire. You could actually see the pilots. When they'd pull out of a dive, they're about 50 feet off the water. You could see them sitting in their planes. And fortunately, they went for the big ships. They didn't go for the little ships, so they left us alone. But because we were by ourselves, we were able to unhitch ourselves from the buoy. We tied up to a big floating anchor buoy, and we got underway, and we were one of the 3 ships that left the harbor that morning before noon. We went out of the harbor shooting, and according to the history books, we shot down 4 airplanes and sunk 1 midget submarine on the way out of the harbor. Ford Island is an island in the middle of the harbor. You come in the harbor this way and come around this way and go out this way. We were here, we went out this way, and when we got close to the entrance of the harbor, a Japanese plane dived at us, dropped a stick of bombs at us, but fortunately his aim was bad from about to get to that wall of it. He missed us, and I was standing there on the deck watching this happen. I had nothing. I had on a pair, we wore shorts in those days at the British Navy. I had on a pair of white shorts and a short sleeve shirt. I ducked down behind a sack of dirty laundry. That was my protection. But he fortunately missed us. We left the harbor and we rendezvoused with the aircraft carrier, the Enterprise, again. Fortunately, she was out at sea. She wasn't in the harbor. They were gone for her. And we joined up the Blue, the Cunningham, and the cruiser, the St. Louis. The 3 ships got out of the harbor that morning. We joined up with the Enterprise and escorted her till the following day. We came back in the harbor the next day, and we came back in this way. This is where the battleships were, and what a horrible sight. Water was about that deep in oil. Bodies were still floating in the water. There's all kinds of wreckage. The Oklahoma had turned over. All these other battleships were sunk. They were sitting down in the mud. And I tell you, the Japanese made a big mistake. If they would have bombed our fuel supply instead of the battleships, we would have been in deep trouble because we wouldn't have had enough fuel. We'd just been locked in the harbor with no fuel to get on the way to go anywhere. Then they could have picked us off at their convenience. We couldn't go anywhere because we didn't have enough supply line to bring us enough fuel. Because one battleship or one aircraft carrier could take the entire supply of 1 tanker, and we only had about 3 tankers at the time hauling fuel. And when we were doing high speed on the destroyer, we would burn about 2,000 gallons of oil an hour. So you can see that we didn't have a heck of a lot to go. And when we go to sea for a long time to get refuel, because we'd run out running with the big ships, because we were the fastest ships around. And when they operated fast, we fast, but they had enough fuel. We would have to go alongside of another ship like this. If we go alongside at the same speed, they'd throw a hose over and we'd refuel in the middle of the sea. This is one thing we had over the Japanese. We were much more efficient. We could refuel at sea and stay at sea a longer time than they could.